Well, Hearthstone crashed, so I'm making a video. Like and subscribe, blah blah blah. What am I talking about today? The reincarnated assassin is a swordmaster, whatever. Um, so this is a reincarnation story, but this guy isn't being reincarnated into like some other world or something. It's basically it's basically like he's reincarnated back into this world to get revenge, right? So, formerly, he was an assassin. And, there's the big bad guy who's, over there, and he attacks him, just cuts him up a little bit, and then ends up getting X'd off, right? Because he's shitty, and that guy is, like, very powerful. But in his final moments, he's like, I don't want to die, and I want to get revenge, and I hate everything, and blah 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 blah. So, he flips out, and then he basically has this, I don't know what you'd call it, like, this spirit of vengeance, the, embodiment of wrath, whatever, this little puff cloud. And basically he gets this second shot at life in this new body. Kind of by accident to some degree. I mean, this puff cloud was supposed to take over and do everything, but he ended up dying before he could take over his former body, so now he gets reincarnated and has a chance of escaping this whole deal. And in this life, rather than being an assassin, he's a swordmaster. Basically, the gist is to fulfill his revenge plan, he has to learn the swordsmanship of like this new house that he was reincarnated into, because they're like, super powerful and OP and incredible, and their abilities are insane. So it's a generic story of doing that and whatnot. As far as like a general rating, it's probably between like a 7 and an 8. It's fine, like it's not gonna blow your mind, but it's well done to a degree. I would say, like, when we're talking like gist of the series, progression-wise, it's very, 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 very plain. Just like most of those, I don't know what you would officially count this as, like a webcomic, I guess. But it's very, very, very plain, where, he shows up, and of course he, gets overpowered extremely quickly, but he has, like, some random debilitation that holds him back. So in this case, the whole, like, spirit of wrath or whatever sent this, like, aura through his body that's basically debilitating and making it, harder for him to grow more powerful. But of course, because this is, like, one of those OP kinds of stories, he ends up just destroying that whole, challenge pretty much right away, and it really doesn't end up mattering that much. It's basically like they'll say he's, weakened or whatever all the time, and then like when a new opponent shows up to, challenge him or whatever, he just can still destroy them because who the hell cares? So basically they say that he has this weakness, but in reality it's not really a weakness, it's basically just a statement that there's a weakness. He still ends up being super overpowered and can basically beat anybody. Which is a little annoying. It's kind of like an irrelevant power scaling weakness just to make it seem like the things that he's doing are more impressive, when in reality they're not. Yeah, I don't know, it's kind of plain. There's some interesting things to this, though. Considering the main character is reincarnated into the same world, in terms of like timelines, like we were talking about before, he's reincarnated. Like if he dies around here, he's reincarnated like pretty much right after this point. So basically, the person he wants to get revenge on, right? He's kind of building up to the point of getting this revenge from scratch. So it's not like, oh, he's reincarnated prior to his death, he's reincarnated after his death. Which is kind of fun. I like the idea. I think they don't really show like the villain doing a lot. I think I read maybe 40, 50 chapters for this, and he really doesn't show up that much. Really, the only nod to him is at one point, like, I don't know, he's like showing his like hand. I forget exactly. He's showing his like hand or something, and there's like a little like cut or something on like his hand from when this guy attacked him right before he died, and that cut like never heals or whatever, which I imagine is some sign of like wrath is coming for you or whatever. But I guess the only other major thing, I mean, there's the generic tropey characters and everything. The only other major thing I would say is Wrath comes along with this like gamifying things. Like, he's not a reincarnator, right? Like, he's not like a reincarnator in the sense of he's brought from our world and he's like getting isekai'd or whatever into this world. So the idea of like gamifying things where there's like levels and things like that, it's not really like a thing in that world, but apparently Wrath just has that ability, and he gets this ability to, you know, have like levels and whatnot. Which I think is, I'm not saying it's bad or anything, but it kind of just feels like they did this whole thing just to make it more similar to other stories, which I don't really think is a positive. Like, do you want to be similar to other things? I don't know. Like, I think they could have done this differently. You know, maybe at the end of the day it'll be kind of like a reverse solo leveling, you know? Where rather than at the start, it's at the end, but I don't know, or rather than at the end, it's at the start. I guess, I don't know, maybe it'll be something like that, but I don't know, it's just kind of, it just feels lazy, you know? There's plenty of other stories that have this whole gamified, like, level thing. Like, do we really need another one? I don't think so. And it's also just irrelevant. Like, they'll give you, like, statistics or whatever, but if you don't know any other character's statistics other than the main guy, numbers and, you know, statistics are irrelevant. Like, if you know his, you know, he has an ability at level 3 or whatever, what does that mean? Like, level 3, I mean, we know that's better than 2, but what's the max? What do other people have? And you don't really have that because he's the only one with this system, so it's like, it just feels irrelevant. It's like, why do I need to know that a skill is level 3 when I don't know if that's high, low, or whatever, right? And he'll spend like 4 years getting a level 3 skill, but then he'll spend 5 minutes to get to 4. It's like, just functionality-wise, I think it's virtually irrelevant. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense, and I think it's pointless to even have in the series. I don't really know why they do it. But yeah, I mean, I think those are like the major things, you know, how the story is and some big plot elements or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Let's go into the SA. What is the SAE? Well, it's story, art, enjoyment. Story-wise, 6. Kind of mediocre, mid, if you will. Art-wise, I mean, it's quality art, but it's not really unique. I mean, blonde hair, red eyes, not really stand out. Some sort of, like, familiar that follows you around doesn't really stand out. They don't even really give it, like, a form. I'll give it a 7, just because it's at least quality. Enjoyment-wise, probably a 6. It's just kind of mid to me. So overall, we're looking at between like a 6 and a 7, I would say. Yeah, I mean the story is definitely kind of just mid. It's really middle of the road. I mean it's not really doing anything special. The art, I mean, it's not going to stand out, but it's at least done well. Enjoyment-wise, I mean, again, maybe it's just me having read a ton of these stories or whatever, but like it just doesn't do anything that's groundbreaking. So I would probably lean toward the 6 here, but I think if we're being a little more objective, then I think it's fair to give it a 7. But overall, I mean, it's just kind of, it is what it is, right? Relatively basic story, not going to blow your mind. I wouldn't go out of my way to read this. It's just alright. But yeah, I don't know. That's about it. I mean, I'd appreciate if you could like, comment, subscribe, you know, maybe leave another story you want me to read down below. Even if I've read it, I'll read it again. I don't really care. And, yeah. I'll see ya.